Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my speech this week. This week, I'm going to be discussing workplace conflict and a personal experience that I had. I did find a quote that was written in Forbes that I found to be interesting, and it was, "Conflict in the workplace is not always a bad thing, however, ignoring it is." I thought this was a perfect quote to apply because conflict in the workplace can make a project or presentation better because it offers different ideas, opinions, and it can really help. However, if you ignore the conflict and just keep fighting about the presentation, you are never going to get anywhere. Different ways workplace conflict arise is through structural, situational, or interpersonal. Structural being an example would be two people going for the same promotion. Situational would be two people disagreeing over individual or group goals or the way the project is done. And interpersonal, which would be differences in culture or poor communication, would be two good examples of that. An example of the workplace conflict I would like to explain to you today is I was working with someone about 3 or 4 years ago. He worked in the same department I did at the newspaper, and we were tasked to work on a project together. And we have never really worked together on a project before, so this was new. And the person I was working with was liked to work solo and even tried to make that happen. And so with that being said, we had naturally a lot of conflict. I thought we could do things one way, he wanted to do things another, and he wouldn't really stop and listen to my ideas. He just thought his ideas were correct. And on the flip side of that, I was getting more annoyed that he wouldn't listen to me, that I started shooting down his ideas. So we were not moving very far forward, and we were not working very well together. So after a while, I decided to let him kind of take the lead on the project, and we worked on the project based on the ideas that he thought we should move forward with, and we were able to get the project done on time, and the presentation came out great. However, I think the presentation and the project would have come out a little bit better if we had used a little bit of both of our ideas, because I think some of the suggestions that I had would have made the project a little bit stronger, and it would have made the presentation a little bit better. And so instead of shying away from the conflict, which is kind of what I did, I should have spoke up a little bit more to find a common ground and show him that we could do a little bit more than what we were doing with the project. And I think it would have turned out a little bit better. The book talks about 5 different steps to resolve conflict. You have deciding if the conflict's worth resolving, examine your own behavior, identify where the conflict originated from, establish common ground, and choose a strategy to resolve those differences. When it came to the personal conflict that I just discussed, I definitely did not try to find a common ground, and I just stepped away and let him take the reins on it, and instead I should have spoke up a little bit more. And the strategy that I had chose was not correct. I should have spoke up, and I should have tried to make it so that we could work together better. And we didn't really take time to try and even identify the conflict or where it started. So there were a lot of things we didn't do when it came to resolving this conflict. I also found another article that talked about 3 more strategies to resolve the conflict, and one of those was embracing the conflict, because conflict can be a good thing and it can cause us to do better. Talking together, which is something we definitely did not do because we were having trouble communicating with each other anyways, and listening carefully, which that I tried to do towards the end, but if I had tried to do it towards the beginning and tried working better with him, we could have had a totally different situation. So for the conflict that I had described, we were more of a situational and an interpersonal conflict because we couldn't agree on how to do the project, which would be situational, and we had terrible communication, which caused us to have an interpersonal conflict. So we actually had 2 out of the 3 conflict strategies that we talked about on the second slide. So let's take a look at what was done right and what I did wrong in this conflict. Some of the things that I did right was I stopped the disagreement to accomplish the project. We were able to stop bickering and arguing, and we were able to work together to reach the project goals that we had decided to set. The project did get done on time, and it got done well. So this also helped us to build a strong presentation and a project. And towards the end of the presentation, or towards the end of the working on the project, I decided to step back and to spend more time listening to him. And that also helped us wrap up and move on with the project. Some of the things I did wrong was that I did not try to find a common ground. I just backed away instead of trying to work together. I did not try hard enough to communicate through the problem. I just decided to back away because I am not a big person with conflict and let him take the reins instead of trying to find a way to communicate. We need to work on this better, and we need to look at both of our ideas instead of just shying away. And I also did not step away and examine my own decisions. I just decided that was the best way to handle it instead of looking at how I handled the situation from the beginning. Thank you so much for tuning in to my presentation. So just to kind of recap or go over, conflict in the workplace can be a good thing, and it definitely can be a positive thing if you embrace it and you use it to make things better. And making sure that if you do have conflict, using those 5 steps along with the 3 additional steps, listening, talking, and accepting the conflict, and then using the other steps to resolve it, such as finding a common ground, looking at your own behavior, and choosing the best strategy to move forward. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation, and I hope that you're able to take something away from this to help you with your business, professional, and personal lives. Thank you.